Who were the Bolsheviks? Lenin, Trotsky, Stalin. Some of the most significant political figures of the 20th century. We're here to tell you who they are, what they did, and why they matter to you.
The Bolshevik Party was founded in 1903
by Alexander Bogdanov and Vladimir Lenin. Bolsheviks were committed to the ideas of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, who pioneered the communist ideology.
The Bolsheviks were a radical socialist party who would not settle for anything less than people conforming to their ideas. This will become very clear later on.
The party came into existence, that is the Bolshevik Party, after a schism in the RSDLP, or the Marxist Russian Social Democratic Labor Party, during the Second Party Congress in 1903. Vladimir Lenin and his followers went off to form the Bolshevik Party, which was then therefore subsequently separated from the funds of the RSDLP and their popular support. Although Bolshevik means majority in Russian, the party remained the minority for almost its entire existence. Lenin was born on April 22nd, 1870, as Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov to a middle-class family of 10 in Simbirsk, now called Ulyanovsk in his honor. His parents were well educated, and Lenin excelled in school. When Lenin turned 15, his father died of a brain hemorrhage, and when he turned 17, his brother was executed by the Tsar for his participation in a plot to murder him. His brother was part of a revolutionary movement, which was socialist in nature, of course. When he eventually found the writings of Marx and Engels, which were illegal in Imperial Russia at the time, he almost instantly became a devout follower of their words. He began to publish writings and organize protests until his eventual exile in 1897. He was sent to Siberia for 3 years, alongside his wife, who was also a member of the socialist movement. During his exile, he strictly followed the law to avoid increasing his sentence or facing execution. He continued to write letters to his correspondents and stayed connected with other members of the movement. When he returned, he moved to Western Europe and became a prominent member of the RSDLP.
There are multiple socialist parties, most of which advocated for a more moderate approach to workers' revolt. They wanted reforms and to democratically take the state. This was in direct conflict with Lenin's ideas for an armed, forceful, and complete revolution against the property and exploiting classes. As a matter of fact,
one of the only things the groups agreed on were the writings of Marx and Engels. The writing I'm doing on John's board shows the two most prominent socialist parties, the Bolshevik and Menshevik parties. I am showing the differences between the two parties. While the Mensheviks believed in a more moderate approach, the Bolsheviks wanted to force a revolution. The Bolsheviks and social revolutionaries / Mensheviks believed in Marxist communism, which is an ideology that was developed by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels during the politically turbulent period of the 19th century. Communism is based on the belief that everyone should be equal. It calls for equal rights and equal quality of life. This results in the elimination of private property, housing distributed according to need, and state-provided welfare. Communism means to eliminate social classes and lead to a communal way of living.
The First Russian Revolution took place in 1905. After humiliating defeat in the Russo-Japanese War, the popularity of the Tsar was rapidly decreasing and the social-economic status of the nation was increasingly poor. This resulted in the 1905 Russian Revolution, which, for the most part, failed in achieving its goals. The revolution led to the passing of the October Manifesto, which promised a legislative committee to halt censorship and stop the state's violation of freedom of association. It also to the formation of Dumas, which were meant to aid in the democratic process. This system soon failed, however, as the Tsar quickly regained his autocratic power through a series of acts, such as the abolition of the First Duma.
the country soon descended into World War I, and the Tsar briefly saw his popularity increase due to the renewed patriotism among his people. Even some of the aforementioned revolutionary groups, such as the Mensheviks, called for a sort of political ceasefire and to focus on the war effort. This newfound popularity almost immediately began to decline, as the loss of life and the decreased economy in the nation was profound. and the suffering of the people was growing seemingly daily. Tsar Nicholas II eventually made the decision to go fight on the front lines himself, leaving the capital in 1915. Social and political unrest continued to rise until the eventual February Revolution.
The February Revolution was a sudden, violent uprising in response to the government's attempts to ration food on January 23, 1917. Quickly, the provisional government was formed out of left-leaning members of the Dumas, and they rapidly laid claim to the state. The newly formed provisional government quickly stopped the trains to stop soldiers loyal to the Tsar from reaching the capital and joining the already bloody fights going on there between the few remaining loyal soldiers and the revolutionaries. Tsar Nicholas II was stopped in Pskov, forgive me for my pronunciation, good grief, where, after 2 days, he abdicated his rule over the country, and thus the Romanov dynasty was ended. That's Pskov, by the way, whatever I said before.
Pskov.
Even though the Tsar was overthrown, the provisional government proved unbelievably unpopular amongst the people. They failed to reduce the unemployment rate, and the country was still gripped by war and poverty. This unpopularity was bolstered by their reluctance to leave World War I and their mass killings of protesters in Petrograd. Soon, the Bolsheviks, led by Lenin, started the October Revolution and subsequently a 5-year-long civil war.
Eventually, the Bolsheviks claimed victory and formed the Soviet Union. Lenin died a few years after the formation of the Union, and against his wishes, Stalin was elected as the head of the Communist Party. The Bolshevik Party was renamed in 1918 to the Communist Party.
The Bolsheviks had won, and the question was, what's next? For Lenin, who was much more of a dreamer than Stalin, they should pursue worldwide resolution, and he wasn't too interested in forming a country. While Stalin thought a strong and powerful nation was necessary to achieve the communist ideal. Stalin took the leadership of the Union from a one-party dictatorship under Lenin to a one-man dictatorship.
Thank you for listening.
That's all, folks.